overarching question of can the world avoid another financial crisis? And it is, of course, timely that we ask you that question because you've just published a book by that exact title, Can We Avoid Another Financial Crisis? That is available right now on Amazon in the UK only, and it sounds like about mid-May before it will be available for order through Amazon in the United States. We will get a email out in our weekly Research Roundup email. When it is possible to order that book in the United States, we'll send the Amazon link at that point to our listeners, so our U.S. listeners will have the ability to do it. But let's get a preview right now for those who aren't able to see the book yet. Can we avoid another financial crisis? Our listeners who have heard your prior interviews know the answer is no, but let's give them a little bit more for their money than that. Why is the answer no?
Okay, the answer is no because it's a complicated no. If it was a straightforward no, I would have written a two-word book rather than a 25,000-word one. But the basic cause is that total demand in the economy is the sum of the turnover of existing money plus credit. Conventional economics tells you can ignore credit. That's why they didn't see the financial crisis coming. It's why I did see it coming. Now, if that's the basis, the turnover of existing money plus credit is your source of total expenditure, which therefore becomes income, then if you have a rising level of private debt to income, at some point, for a range of reasons, and I elaborate these in the book, you then have people not willing to take on any more credit. The credit to the income level plateaus, and when it plateaus, credit, which is the change in debt, goes to zero. And of course, if you have people trying to pay their debts down or they're going bankrupt, then credit actually becomes negative. So what was a positive contribution to demand in the lead up, once you reach the saturation point, becomes either zero or negative. And America had that classic experience of going from credit being 15% of GDP to minus 5% over a 2-year period. Now, once you've done that, if you try to reduce your debt by paying it down, by earning more, by growing faster, yada, 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 you find you can't do that. And what then happens is each attempt to reduce your debt level by paying debt down actually destroys the money that you repay that debt with. And that reduction in capacity to spend reduces your income as almost as much or more in some cases, given large levels of deflation, reduces your income more than it reduces your debt level. So your debt ratio either remains constant or rises. And you can be stuck there without a little event like, for example, the Second World War. You can be stuck there indefinitely. Now, Japan gives us the best instance of that. Japan hit its crisis in 1990 because of the momentum of debt still rising and GDP actually falling at that stage. The debt ratio continued to rise till about 1992 or 3. It peaked at 225% of Japan's GDP. It stayed down to about 165%, so they've cut it by roughly a quarter. But that still gives it a debt level which is probably 1.5 times as much as that economy should be carrying. And therefore, nobody wants to borrow money for investment. Investment is less than it needs to be to cause the economy to grow or to have the firms being able to finance innovation, and the economy becomes stagnant. Now, America joined that same situation 18 years later with this crisis in 2008. Several other economies did the same thing. The Netherlands, obviously, Spain, very obviously, Ireland also, the UK, though it didn't actually realise it had done this. And they're all what I call the walking debt of debt. They're carrying so much debt, private debt, that they are not investing, they're not growing. They therefore stumble on with only one real source of demand, more the turnover of existing money, and that, because of the situation of a long-running slump, that happens even more slowly again, so even that turnover slows down. So they're the walking debt of debt. But there are countries that appeared to get through the crisis in 2008 with flying colours, South Korea and Australia being the two most outstanding examples, because they were the only two OECD nations not to record a technical recession, two consecutive quarters of negative growth. They got through it by increasing their leverage. So Australia's running at about, having hit about 180% when the crisis occurred, it's now about 210%. It's got the second most over-indebted households in the world. The only ones that beat them are the Swiss. And with that level of debt, they're going to hit a ceiling in the next 2 or 3 years, more likely the next 1 year for the housing sector. And that's the end of credit demand there. They'll go from being what I call they managed to cheat the crisis, but they're now what I call the zombies to be. And in terms of the countries I identified, the major countries, China obviously, Canada, almost certainly, South Korea, Australia, and then a range of unexpected countries like Belgium, Norway, Sweden, the Netherlands, and so on. The Netherlands has got the capacity to both be the walking dead of debt and a new zombie all at once.
Steve,